The draconian embassy on Europa Station had exhausted 17 tutors in as many months. Princess Nyla sat in the crystalline learning chamber, her scaled hands folded precisely on the desk, her bioluminescent throat patterns cycling through shades of frustrated violet. The newest tutor, a Centaurian linguist with 4 doctoral degrees, stood before her, mandibles clicking in distress. "Your Highness, if you would simply activate your translator implant." Nyla's throat flashed crimson. The tutor retreated 3 steps. Ambassador Kethris entered with the smooth glide of his kind, his own throat patterns displaying diplomatic gold. "Professor Zaylath, I believe we've reached an impasse. Your services are no longer required." After the tutor departed, Kethris settled onto the cushioned platform beside his daughter. "Nyla, the Interstellar Council convenes in 6 weeks. You must demonstrate command of Standard. Our people's petition for voting rights depends on it." Nyla's clawed fingers traced symbols on her data pad. "I understand Standard perfectly. I will not speak it." "Cannot or will not?" Kethris asked, though he knew the answer. Draconians could speak any language their translator chips provided neural patterns for. His daughter's silence was a choice, one that baffled every specialist they'd consulted. Kethris left her to her solitude, which was how Brian found her an hour later. Brian pushed his maintenance cart into the learning chamber, the wheels squeaking against the polished floor. He'd been cleaning Europa Station's diplomatic sector for 3 years, invisible to the ambassadors and attachés who passed him daily. The draconian princess was just another occupant of another room, though he had to admit she was more courteous than most. She always moved her materials aside when he needed to clean her desk. Today, he noticed her datapad displayed the same sentence, repeated hundreds of times. "I cannot. I cannot. I cannot." "Rough day?" Brian asked, not expecting a response. He never did. Nyla's head turned slightly, her amber eyes tracking him with reptilian precision. Brian pulled out his cleaning supplies and began wiping down the transparent aluminum windows that offered a view of Jupiter's swirling storms. "I get it," he continued, talking mostly to himself as he worked. "Sometimes words don't come out right. My nephew's the same way. He's got this neural processing thing. Doctors say his speech centers light up fine in the scans. But when he tries to talk, it's like the bridge between thinking and speaking just collapses." He glanced back. Nyla was watching him intently now, her throat patterns shifting to an inquiring teal. "Yeah, Charlie's 7. Smart as they come. He just can't make his mouth do what his brain wants." Brian moved to clean the holographic projectors. "But he's got these puppets, right? His therapist gave him this set. Little felt characters. When Charlie moves them, makes them talk to each other, the words just flow. It's like the puppet gives him permission to speak, or creates enough distance that the pressure's off." Nyla stood abruptly, moving to her datapad. She typed rapidly. "The puppet removes the self from the speaking?" Brian blinked, realizing she was responding. Yeah, I guess so. It's not Charlie talking, it's the character. Takes the weight off somehow. Show me." "Show you what?" "How the puppets speak." Brian scratched his head, glancing at his cart. Among the cleaning supplies, he spotted his work gloves, heavy-duty things with articulated fingers. On impulse, he slipped one onto his right hand and held it up like a crude puppet. "Well, he pitched his voice slightly higher, moving the glove's fingers. "Hello there, Your Highness. I'm just a simple glove, nothing important. What's your name?" For a long moment, Nyla stared at the glove. Then something remarkable happened. Her throat patterns flickered through a rapid spectrum of colors, anxiety blue, fear black, determination orange, before settling on a cautious green. Her mouth opened, her forked tongue moved. And in a voice that carried the harmonics of her draconian physiology, but formed perfectly clear standard words, she said, "I am Nyla." The voice was small, uncertain, but unmistakably real. Brian nearly dropped the glove. You can speak. The glove can speak, Nyla corrected, her eyes fixed on the puppet. I am observing. Right, Brian said slowly, understanding dawning. He made the glove bow. Well, Nyla, it's very nice to meet you. I'm, Glovington. A sound emerged from Nyla's throat, a chittering that took Brian a moment to recognize as laughter. That is a terrible name, she said, the words coming easier now. Hey, I'm just a janitor. Naming's not my strong suit. Over the next hour, Brian's glove puppet held a halting conversation with the princess. Through this absurd intermediary, Nyla explained what 17 specialists had failed to grasp. Draconian royalty carried the genetic memory of their ancestors. When she tried to speak standard, she felt the weight of every Draconian who had been conquered, enslaved, or silenced by the species who created that language. The pressure of that historical trauma collapsed her speech centers entirely. But the puppet, Nyla said, her confidence growing, creates separation. I am not speaking. The puppet speaks. The history cannot touch, cannot reach. The puppet, Brian finished. Ambassador Kethris found them this way. His daughter in animated conversation with a janitor's work glove. He stood in the doorway, his throat patterns cycling through amazement. 6 weeks later, Princess Nyla addressed the Interstellar Council. She wore an elegantly designed haptic glove that projected a holographic figure beside her, a small dragon avatar that moved with her hand gestures. When she spoke, perfect and clear, she addressed the council through this intermediary. Some representatives found it odd, most found it charming. All of them heard her arguments for draconian representation, delivered with eloquence and passion. The measure passed unanimously. Brian watched the broadcast from his quarters on Europa Station, a message on his datapad from the Draconian embassy. It contained a single word in standard, followed by a symbol he didn't recognize but somehow understood. Thank you. Ambassador Kethris had included a postscript. Our best specialists failed to see what a janitor understood, that communication requires not intelligence, but empathy. Your nephew's therapist would like to consult with our medical teams. We may help each other's children find their voices. Brian smiled, looking out at Jupiter's storms. Sometimes the simplest solutions came from the most unexpected places. Sometimes you just needed someone to see past the title to the person underneath. Sometimes you just needed a puppet.